Hey, what's happening? Jeff Fish here. We are here for a special guest chat with my dude, Josh Orlando, drummer extraordinaire. Great cat. Welcome, Josh.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jeff.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is, we'll give you full truths here. We try to stay, pretty genuine on the channel. This is our second go at this because I had some technical problems, so it's very gracious of Josh to make a reappearance here in the studio. So I do appreciate that. And as always, please do hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, and that would be fantastic. So let's get to it. Josh Orlando.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm great.
Excellent.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. Well, let's get through the basics, and then we'll get into some meaty stuff
All right.
about music and drumming. So where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Kutztown, Pennsylvania, which is basically like right between Reading and Allentown.
Cool.
Did the whole, high school thing.
Yes.
And then I went to Temple University for my undergrad. And I have a degree in jazz performance from Temple. And then pretty much right from there, just
into the scene. Excellent. Excellent. So coming up, you started at what age?
I was the typical, hey, you're in 4th grade in elementary school, you get to pick an instrument. I always wanted to play the drums.
Cool.
So I picked they didn't let you play drum set at that point, so I had to pick snare drum. I picked it up very naturally, but I also was super, super bored with it. I enjoyed it,
right?
But it wasn't until it was in 5th grade on my birthday, I came downstairs to a Tama Rockstar drum kit, and that was like
changed everything.
That was it for me,
Right on. Yeah. Right on. So then, so you did the school thing, and you get in some private lessons.
Yep, I studied with a bunch of teachers. In high school, I studied with John Rosam, who I know that you know very well.
Johnny, my dude.
Johnny, yep, the man, the myth, the legend.
Yes.
He was great, man.
Yeah.
I owe, good Lord, so much to John.
Yeah.
And then I went to college at Temple, and I studied with Carl Matola.
Cool.
God bless his soul. And that was a whole other... He really taught me about swing and jazz and all the different styles. And then I studied with a couple other cats, some one-offs with Eric Johnson.
Cool.
He and I actually traded lessons. I don't really know what he learned from me, but I definitely learned a lot from him.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we would sit outside of Presser Hall at Temple with 2 practice pads, and we would just sit there on benches and just trade lessons.
That's amazing.
Very cool, just working on hand stuff. I took a couple lessons with Gene Lake.
Okay.
Are you familiar with Gene Lake?
Yeah, I'm not.
He played with Dave Koz. He's one of the drummers on the from the Screaming Headless Torsos.
Okay.
Who, if you've never heard them,
have not. Check them out.
Oh my God!
Cool.
If you like funk music or fusion, those, they're the cats. Man.
Nice.
They're all Berkeley guys.
Yeah.
He also played with. I think he's one of the drummers on the Lunar Crush. Okay. That's Medeski and Dave Fajinski.
Yeah, cool.
Record. Then I took one lesson with JoJo Mayer.
Oh wow!
Which was
that's awesome.
That was very cool. Speaking of traditional, speaking of traditional grip,
right?
He taught me a lot about left foot independence and just how to really stay relaxed when I'm playing, and that's. Trying to think. I don't think there's any other major teachers, because I could say YouTube, but that wasn't really a thing when we were the cats coming up, so things are a lot different now. If we wanted to learn, we read from books, and we went to people's houses and studied.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot different now.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I love that. I used to love going to Johnny's place and like.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's so. Full disclosure as well. Josh gave me a lesson before we got started here today, which was pretty fantastic. And we kind of got in a talk about having someone in the room makes such a difference. It really does. I mean, I love all the YouTube stuff too, and I participate in a variety of online drum lesson programs for myself. But to have someone sit in the room with you and say, "Hey, try this. See what this feels like," or maybe you could adjust this. It's just a different kind of feedback, and it's just a different thing.
Absolutely.
So big thanks to Josh for coming out and spending some time with me behind the kit, which was pretty fantastic.
I mean, you've never. I think that regardless of how far along in this business you are, I think that it's great, regardless of your talent level, to still grab a lesson every once in a while just to get a completely different approach. Mm-hmm. And like you said, it's great to just be told like, hey, you might want to try this. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing anything wrong.
Right.
But it's just like, maybe try this approach. And like, like I had mentioned to you about like the way you strike your kick drum, mm-hmm. like it's different. Hopefully it helps. If it doesn't, well, that's cool too, like it's at least it's a different mindset to have on playing the instrument that you didn't have before.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge thing for anybody. I mean, he and I even talked about in the lesson about, as we get older, we either get stuck in our ways or we just don't think to, I could take a lesson with somebody and have it be helpful, and I think it's a beautiful thing to, there's no ego, involved in it. There's nothing, you're not lesser because you're taking a lesson with somebody. You're getting a new perspective. We all, it's, not just drummers, like all musicians in general, I feel like we all get to a point where sometimes we feel a little stale,
Sure.
When we're gigging so much and, you just kind of get locked into doing your thing so often. It's great to get an honest perspective in the room with you. I mean, we also said about, we're out at gigs and everyone always just says, "Oh, you played great, man." Everyone, everyone's polite out in public, but
sure,
that's not helpful.
No, it's not.
It's nice.
Yeah,
but
it's a nice
helpful.
little ego boost, but that's, I'd rather be told like, hey, like, like maybe try hitting the snare drum a little bit different. It might increase your pocket a little bit, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So that's fantastic. So cool. So you got through your lessons thing. So in like your junior high and high school programs, did you do like marching band or anything like that? Like the school jazz band?
Oh yeah, I did all that stuff. Junior high, I was selected into the junior high jazz band.
Cool.
In 7th grade, and did it all the way through the end of high school. And one of the, I gotta be honest, like after playing my first concert in 7th grade, which was absolutely terrifying, that was it.
Yeah.
That was, okay, this is life.
This is what I'm gonna do.
This is what I'm gonna do.
Neat.
It also laid the groundwork for my biggest fear as a musician, and that was, I'll never forget it. And to this day, I never wear on a gig a shirt with long sleeves, because I was going into literally my first drum fill, okay, and it was just like I was like, oh man, I got 16th notes for days. I'm gonna kill this fill. We were playing Danger Zone.
Yes.
And I hit the third tom, and my stick I was wearing a hockey jersey, and my stick got caught in my sleeve, and I dropped it, and I was like, oh my god, like, and everything was okay, but like ever since then, I will never do a gig with long sleeves unless it's like, well, okay, then you're not going to get the gig. Which I've never really had an issue with that, thank God. But Yeah, so that was that. I did it in 7th and 8th grade. Then ninth through 12th, I did the whole. I was just in general into music altogether. I did chorus, and I'm a singer too.
Cool.
A little bit of orchestra. Like, I would by no means call myself a marimba player. I could play timpani okay, but like, I did all. I did all like the counties and districts and all that
all
stuff.
That fun stuff. Yep.
More for a reason to miss school than anything.
It was always a good time.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Always a good time.
Yeah, all the people that you met in those things, and you're like, wow, there's people just as crazy as I am about this stuff.
Right.
So yeah, definitely met some really interesting people doing that stuff. Yeah. Especially on the ones where you would like regionals and states, like where you would stay over, and it's like. You get into some pretty wild situations. But yeah, and then, throughout other things that happen when you're in high school, like you get the opportunity to like, oh, there's some other people in school that like have the same musical interests. So then I had my first punk band when I was in high school called the Posers.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And I joined that band when I was 14.
Yeah.
We're doing a gig in February of next year.
Wow.
Yeah, like that will be 30 years that I'm playing with these guys.
Yeah, that's
awesome. Like we always do like one show, and like that just is a testament to like music in general, like we come together once a year just to like play the show. We play the same song, but it's like, who cares? Like I get to see these guys, and like there's so much history there.
Yeah, that's cool.
Which is great. It just goes to say a lot about like the power of music and like.
Yeah, for sure.
It's very cool.
Music is such a different industry than a regular job kind of thing. I mean, it's truly a community, and I mean it's even. How you and I connected, it was just through mutual people that we know and have worked with, overlapping gig people, and now we've connected and now we're building our community circle, and
it's great.
It's definitely a beautiful thing.
Absolutely,
dig it. Awesome. So that's kind of your background. So you got through college, got the degree.
Yeah.
Started gigging. What kind of stuff were you gigging on straight out of college?
So it's funny, when I graduated from Temple, the first thing that I decided was that I wasn't gonna do a straight ahead gig for a year.
Nice.
So I actually ended up I got a job at Steve Weiss Music,
cool,
the world's greatest drum catalog on the earth.
Yes.
But it's funny, pretty much like 3 months after I started working there, I went out on tour. And it was awesome. I went out with this band called Big Breakfast. It was just like very pocket, funk, disco, like original music.
Yeah.
And, we did a lot of great shows. It was a lot of jam band stuff. We did a lot of shows with Lotus and Particle and like a lot of big bands, and then, all good things must come to an end, and, we all like went back to like, doing our lives, and people moved away, and, but then, I started getting into like, like the wedding and corporate scene, and like then, like my passion projects, and, all of that stuff. I started to do some recording work.
Cool.
I didn't really have my own home studio, not till many, many years later. But just having the opportunity to play and do gigs, and I also started teaching pretty much right out of like teaching heavily.
Okay.
That's when I got my UPenn. I started teaching at UPenn.
Right on.
Around 2006.
Okay.
I still teach there.
Nice.
So
that's awesome.
That's going on 18 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's.
What is that? Is it like a class or like lessons kind of situation?
Yeah, it's just lessons.
Cool.
I have students sign up through either what's called the College House Music Program, or there's an actual class where they get graded on. And that's cool. I always tell my students it's like the easiest A you'll ever get. Just communicate. But that's a great gig, and it's a lot of beginners. Which it's funny when it comes to teaching. Like I'm not going to say that I prefer teaching beginners, but there's nothing like the feeling of watching somebody that's never touched the instrument before. And the cool thing is with the method books that there are nowadays, obviously the first thing that I teach them is technique and how to use their hands and feet. But there's, I'd say at least 75% of the people that I teach, they're able to walk out of their first lesson playing a beat, a groove, and they just think that's the greatest thing. And I think it's awesome too, so it's a great feeling.
Yeah.
So I love teaching those kids.
Yeah, neat.
And then I have my very few private students that I teach either online or out of my house in my home studio. But it's great.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So so you have this home studio now.
Yes.
When did you start putting that together?
So I started putting that together. I had a room in my house probably in around 2012, 2013. And I had a full, pretty high-end V-drum kit in there.
Nice.
That I was doing a lot of recording out of. V-drums make recording so simple. And now the technology with those, it's borderline that you can't even tell that they're electronic drums anymore.
Yeah.
But I got my full acoustic rig set up in a different room in my house, probably around 2017, 2018.
Okay. You were ahead of the curve. All of the rest of us did it during the pandemic. And
I hit that
you
right
had it
before.
happening already. Yeah.
Yeah, right before that. It's interesting too in regards to the pandemic. I actually started teaching my my students online, a solid 2 or 3 years virtually. Before the pandemic hit, so that was
awesome.
That
you
was
were
cool.
already set. You didn't have to adjust a whole lot.
Exactly. Yeah, I had
That's
that already
cool.
going on, so that was cool.
Yeah.
But I love doing studio work out of my house.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's great.
Yeah.
Every time I sit down to record too, it's always great practice. One is playing, and two is mixing and editing, and it's very enjoyable just in general as a musician to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing for all musicians to have at least an understanding of how that stuff works.
Of course.
I know when I first started setting up my spot in here, I was a disaster. It's, I had to change the room around 100 times, trying to figure out what gear to get, what do I need, what don't I need, those kinds of things. And then, I can't just hit a record button and have it sound good. You have to do some things.
No, there's so much to it.
There's work involved, and but I think it's great. I feel like drummers, especially, I think it's great to be able to understand how to record our instrument, how to mic our instrument, and whether it's live or in a studio.
Of course.
So that's awesome that you have all that.
Yeah, I mean the thing about recording drum set is it's a lot of instruments. It's just I can either plug in direct or I'm in a mic and amp, and it's one, maybe two mics. Mine is 14.
Yeah.
It's and then the treatment of the room, and if your room doesn't have natural reverb, then you need to literally make the room completely dead, and then utilize plugins to provide reverb instead of there's this constant battle of making it work. But once you get that really dialed in, it's a great feeling, and you start to get really good tones out of your gear. And the biggest thing that I always talk about in regards to recording drums is that your drums have to sound good before they hit your computer.
Yes.
Too many people rely on the engineer and the software to make their drums sound good.
Yeah.
And I don't buy it.
No. No, it's funny. There's a guy I follow. He's an engineer and teaches a bunch of recording engineering courses online and stuff like that. Joe Gilder. And he always his motto with everything is get it right at the source.
Yeah.
If it doesn't sound right, if the guitar doesn't sound right out of the guitar, if the drums don't sound right out of the drums,
Yeah.
then it's not going to sound right no matter what processing you do once you get into the EQ and compression and all that stuff.
Exactly.
So it's to have it correct from there is key to it sounding great on the record.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. It's so important.
Yes.
And it's very noticeable on the recording, it's like, yeah, I pride myself on my recordings that when I send something out, there is, of course, in certain styles of music, what I was going to say is I don't use any compression whatsoever.
Yeah.
But, certain styles of music, like the metal stuff, I mean, it's known for having tons of compression because you want that, like, that super punchy sound that, I mean, EQ will get you, EQ and all, like, the plugins will get you so far, but that kind of stuff almost, like, requires the compression to make it sound as thick and fat as possible.
Right.
Like I said, especially the metal stuff, which I'm now learning about.
That's awesome. Well, that kind of segues us into current projects.
Oh boy!
I mean, the metal thing is new, and
I'm in love with that.
Interesting.
The death metal thing is great. I've had to learn so much. I've always listened to that style of music, but I've dabbled playing it, but playing it is just like it's like running a marathon, and like a lot of gigs that we do just as musicians in general, as drummers, like, I mean, you with the sermon and like me with, package and whatnot, like those gigs are like 3 to 4 hours at a shot.
Yeah.
A metal set is like 25 minutes,
Right on.
And by the time that 25 minutes is over, you're like drenched in sweat, and it's like you feel like you've run a marathon, man, and like, but that music is unbelievably gratifying to play.
Nice.
I love it.
That's so great. It just cracks me up. So I've seen Josh play a bunch of times, obviously, but I've seen him play straight ahead, and I've seen him play funk. So hearing his love for metal is, I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, it's beautiful. Yeah, it's great.
I'm infatuated with it.
That's awesome.
So there's that, and then there's like my first musical love will always be my funk band Package, with Timothy Esterly and Howie Gordon. They're like two of my best friends and heroes in my musical life.
Awesome. And they're absolutely fantastic. I'm going to put a link to Package in the description so you can check them out.
Thank you. So that's all original, 3-piece, just balls to the wall funk, man. It's
legit.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And the musical relationships I have with those two gentlemen are just like unparalleled.
Yeah, that's awesome.
There's nothing like the feeling of playing with a bass player that you've played with consistently. I mean, Tim and I basically, except for like one, like the metal project and the Dave tribute, like we play every gig together.
Yeah, that's
so
awesome.
It's like it's a
that's
beautiful
a big deal.
thing. It's huge.
Mm-hmm.
It's so I love that, and Howie is just like the icing on the cake.
Yeah, cool.
It's like a mad scientist with just everything that he can do. It's baffling.
Neat.
And then I have my group with Dave Maddock with Jason Herman, who was also in the metal band.
Yes, of course.
That's a very cool, like New Orleans style, just again straight up funk, organ trio stuff. That's great. We just finished recording a record that's in the production stages now, like getting mixed and mastered and all that. That's called Funk Tap.
Yeah. I got some sneak previews of that record. It's pretty dope.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that. I play with an Armenian fusion ensemble with this really, really great guitarist, writes awesome music, named Vahe Sarkisian.
Okay, cool.
That's really cool. That's a lot of odd meter stuff.
Nice.
speaking of odd meter stuff, I play with this brilliant guitarist named Sean Christie.
Okay.
I'm working on his. We did 2 full albums together. I just finished recording an EP with him, and I'm about to start cutting to his next full LP.
Sweet.
And man, every song I record for that guy, the bar just keeps getting set higher and higher. He's writing some great stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome.
He's really pushing my limits playing wise.
Neat.
So that's really, really great stuff. I would definitely, if you don't mind, recommend dropping a link to
Absolutely.
to him
Yep,
and the Vahe stuff too.
Yeah.
And then lastly, I mean, yeah, I have a wedding corporate gig
Mm-hmm.
with a band called Elevation. Awesome.
Yeah.
So much fun. That none of my musical, and I pride myself on this, none of my musical situations ever feel like they're a job.
Yeah. That's.
You know?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's a little bit of a stigma about being in a wedding band.
There is.
That like,
of course.
Oh man, I gotta go to work. No, I've never once felt like that
With that band.
With this band.
Yeah, that's cool.
Total pros. And the last thing that really keeps my calendar full is I play in a Dave Matthews tribute band.
Yes.
Which,
Cool.
Again, just due to my influences as a player,
Mm-hmm.
I grew up on that stuff.
Yeah.
So like, and it's a very particular part of my playing style. So having the opportunity to play that stuff is a true joy to me. And
Yeah,
everybody in
I'm
that
sure.
band is also really top notch. We we go over the top and making sure that like all of our instruments are the same as like the band and the actual band, and it's a ton of fun.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Yeah, I really enjoy that. And then my own recording stuff for, hired gun stuff, which is nothing like working from home.
I know, it's beautiful, man. That's the dream for sure.
Yeah, so I love that.
Just
That's a
churning
lot of
out
fun.
drum parts, man.
It's great.
awesome.
That allows me to be very creative and and just kind of like push what I'm doing with the recording stuff. I learn something new every time I record.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yep.
I love it.
Yep. And that's, so you can kind of hear, that's a lot of different types of projects.
Yeah.
That's a wide range of music in there, from death metal to straight ahead to, all this different stuff. And, that's a big deal. That's what gives you, in particular, a great value in the
keeps
music
me
industry.
working.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
To be able to have all those styles in your bag is huge. It's so many times you'll find, I feel like drummers especially kind of, they can play this style really well and that's it. And they'll play with this band and that's all they're going to do. But meanwhile, there's all this bigger musical world out there of interesting things.
Yeah.
and work fun work
exactly
to be had and musical experiences to have, and so it's just awesome that you're doing that. You're grabbing all these styles, and I talk to a lot of people about this as well, again, particularly drummers. It's great for us to have all those styles to help influence each other. You can, I know we've joked before about, well, I mean, maybe he's not going to play blast beats in a straight ahead gig. Josh
or will
might.
I?
Exactly.
Or will I?
And it'll be super dope because he'll do it in the right way. And, that's pretty extreme, but, you can take all these different styles and have them influence whatever particular job you're on.
Sure. Yeah, that's one of the best things about doing everything, and I always preach to my students and just players in general that are at least willing to hear it is to learn, listen to all styles, like whether it's not really your thing or not. Like on the way home from your house today, I might listen to Mahler 3.
Yeah.
Or John Scofield or Meshuggah or you know what I mean, like playing that stuff is of course a whole other animal.
Right.
But being versatile definitely keeps me working as a player, and like, listen, we all know that doing music as a like a gig, a full-time gig, that's a hustle. It's a struggle, man.
Yep. It is hard.
Especially in a major city like Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So yeah, being versatile and doing, all the different styles thing is definitely a major asset to my career.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
And like I said, I've gotten to see Josh play a number of times in different styles and just fantastic stuff.
Thank you.
Always enjoyed walking in the door and seeing Josh behind the kit.
I appreciate that.
I know I'm in for some funky beats. It's always good stuff. Nice. So, drum tuning.
Yes.
I feel like everyone, drummers, we all have our own philosophy of the tuning. You got your guys that are mathematical and want certain pitches and got pitch pipes and devices to dial it all in, and then there's other cats. I fall into the other cats that are just kind of swashbuckling and show up and I'm cranking and make it sound good for whatever you hear, whatever it sounds like.
Sure.
And if it sounds good to you, then that's what you're going with that night. What's your kind of style of tuning and approach?
I mean, I definitely I would say that I fall into the latter as well. The other thing that really affects my tuning is what style of music that I'm playing. I mean, I'm not one to take duct tape and throw it all over my drums to like just make them dead.
Right.
But I like my kick drums very, very thuddy. I don't like them open whatsoever. So I mean, my batter heads almost are to the point that like I can push on, and like my tension rods are almost like falling off. I like it super, super deep.
Yeah.
My snares I like really, really bright, and there isn't really a method other than like making my bottom head stupid tight to the point that like it barely ripples when I push my thumb on it. And then I base my top head off of that. Like if I want like a mid tune, then then that's just basing like the tightness of the top head off of it.
Right. Gotcha.
My toms, I do the put it on the floor, find a pitch that I want, and then I tune the 10 and the 12 to the same, or the 8 and the 10 to the same pitch. 12s are slightly different offset between the tops and bottoms, and then the same goes for 14s and 16s. But I like my drums tuned, at least my 2 or 3 up top, I like them pretty bright.
Nice. Yeah.
And then my floors, I like them very low, like super low. Again, like I'll have floor toms where like I can finger tight the, like I'll get done with a gig and like tension rods will be like on the floor and rattling. It's like, but yeah, I go for a lot of crack. I also like my drums really, really dry. I want them to get in and get out because I'm a very ghost note heavy player.
Right.
And I want everything to be able to be heard.
Wow.
That's where like the fusion stylings, like my playing style comes from.
Yeah, that's cool. And that's a big deal. You said depending on what type of music you're playing, you're going to tune in a different way.
Yeah.
And it makes a huge difference on a gig. Especially me as a drummer walking into a place where there's live music. You can tell if the drummer took time to detail that and make it right for the room and for the style that they're playing.
Absolutely.
And I think it makes a big difference. You can be a great player and sound pretty good on untuned drums or just crappy sounding drums, but you take the time to detail a little bit, and it just pushes and elevates the sound and makes more professional sound.
Oh, absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's a big deal.
Yeah, I hate going into a place where like if there's like a house kit and like the drums sound pretty crappy, like that that drives me. That's actually another pet peeve
There
of
it is.
mine.
There
it
we
is.
go.
Yeah. I will sit.
I'm
there
in on
and,
that one too.
yeah, I'll sit there and I'll tune a house kit.
Yeah.
Before I do a gig on it for sure.
Yeah, always. Let's talk about some of your influences. I know for me, of course, in all of us, I feel they change as we go through different periods of time and
Sure.
whatnot. So growing up, I mean, you already mentioned, Dave Matthews thing. So Carter Beauford, clearly.
Yeah, Carter Beauford is probably my biggest influence on my playing style in general.
Yeah.
Just the way he approaches, it's very unorthodox.
Mm-hmm.
Not even that, like, I mean, aside from the, playing open, which isn't really, I don't even know if I would call that unorthodox. It's just how he does it,
Yeah.
That's the way he does it. But, like, the way he utilizes the hi-hat and, like, his particular tone, his snare sound, I definitely have been known to, like, mimic and his use of linear. I'm a huge fan of just everything about him, the way he tunes, the way he plays, like that's why the Dave tribute thing was just like, I couldn't
sweet
get
spot for you.
Yeah, I couldn't get to the gig fast enough, so yeah, there's him. I mean, when I was in high school, I would go to soccer practice. I'd go to school, which I hated. And then I would go to soccer practice or baseball or basketball, whatever.
Yeah.
Or even musical theater practice.
Yes.
And I would get home and I would maybe eat dinner if my parents were lucky. And I would go right down into my basement where my kit was, and I had a stand with a CD player and a stack of CDs.
Yes.
And I would play through probably like from like 5 until like 11 o'clock every day. That was my shed. So I would so talking about influences, I would play along to Jamiroquai.
Yeah, cool.
Derek McKenzie.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant pocket player.
Yeah.
Nothing flashy, just laying it down.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. That's where my love of like disco funk really came from.
Neat.
The Dave Matthews stuff. Then I would switch over to like Dream Theater. Then I would get my education in odd times and crappy singing.
Yeah.
But that was like where my double bass enjoyment and love of odd time signatures came from.
Cool.
And also like one of the biggest things about Dream Theater that really that got kicked into play was the ability to learn how to memorize really, really intricate pieces of music that are long.
Yeah.
Because there's some Dream Theater tunes that are like between 10 and 15 minutes long.
Right.
And like they don't repeat.
Right.
So it's like, okay, this measures in 5/8, this measures in 7/8. Okay, that might kick back to that motif like 12 minutes into the song.
Right.
With all this other ridiculous stuff in between.
Yeah.
So there was that, and then there was like the heavier stuff like Korn.
Nice.
Those first 2 Korn records are just like, I love that stuff.
Yeah.
And then I would finish off with like with Tool. The first 2 Tool records, especially the first one, Undertow.
Yeah. Cool.
I mean, Danny Carey's playing is like, it's not your typical like rock metal prog like his creativity behind the kit is just, it's really unparalleled.
Yeah,
like there are very few drummers that would take that style and not have Danny Carey as an influence.
Right. Yeah, cool.
So there's that, and then like more modern stuff, like after I got to college, I learned who Dennis Chambers and Billy Cobham was, and 2 major influences. And then I got into like the crazier metal stuff, like Meshuggah.
Yes, of course.
Good lord. Thomas Hawk is, one of my, if not my favorite drummer.
Nice.
Just the way he plays with so much power, crossing over bar lines, yet still like making it feel amazing.
Yeah.
And he plays with so much groove, yet still playing this ridiculously heavy music.
Right.
and it's like you can't help but like
It's funny. It helps make that music more listenable.
absolutely.
You know, it's more. You don't necessarily have to be a big fan of that genre to be able to listen to that because of it feels good.
It feels great. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when they came out with their record in 2002 called Nothing, that was like a game changer musically for me.
Yeah, right on.
Because they like their records before that. Don't get me wrong, Chaos Sphere is. I mean, I have their album art tattooed on my leg.
Excellent.
You know, but like that record really changed a lot for me just in regards to the way that I think about music and metal and just everything. But when they came out with Nothing in 2002, like there was so much power. That was the first record that they also used 8-string guitars. But I mean, his pocket on this like crazy heavy music is just I mean, he hits so hard and it's just like it's so in your face, but like
right on.
but yeah, like you have no choice but to like it makes it very accessible to non-metal listeners.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, I've turned Meshuggah onto like a lot of like jazz guys, and they're like, "Wow, this is very cool."
Yeah. I'm kind of one in that boat. You know, I never was really into that genre. I mean, I dabble and listen to a couple things, but then I caught on to some of the Meshuggah stuff, and I was like, this is different.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
This is a pretty cool thing. Yeah.
Huge fan.
Nice.
I'm seeing them in concert next week.
Sweet. Nice.
For the 12th time.
Excellent. Fantastic. So it's your influences. Cool.
Yeah, pretty much.
And again, it's a wide range, you know, and that's a testament to what you do and what comes out of you as a player.
Sure. Is
you're pulling from all these different things, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, I love it.
Excellent. Let's get on to a couple of more intricate things, so to speak. So, obviously you do a ton of live playing.
Yes.
Do you have any particular, like, pet peeves or things that, you get to a gig and you're like, oh man, this is going to be a drag because XYZ isn't happening, or this didn't work out, or are there things you're pretty particular about?
Probably the biggest thing that my biggest pet peeve about like live gigging in general is lack of preparation. And it's one of the things that I always stress to people that want to like do this. And that's that being a great player is like maybe 50% of the gig.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, did the person show up on time with plenty of time that they're not like hustling to get ready for downbeat? Do they know the music that you have to play? Because on like a corporate gig, like, there's first dance, like on a wedding gig, there's first dances. Right. There's particular must plays that they want to learn, that they want the band to learn. Like that takes time to prepare. So like, I honestly, that doesn't happen with my band. So like, I'm just so elated about that. It's one of the reasons why I love working with these guys so much.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
But like, did the person dress properly? Like, did they bring the right gear? Like stuff like that. But yeah, the biggest thing is preparedness. Yeah. Like, if we're supposed to be playing a particular repertoire of music and it's not prepared, like they don't have the charts, they didn't take the time to learn it, that is very frustrating. Yeah. Because sound check is not the time to learn music.
Correct.
So yeah, that is my biggest thing. Other than that, I mean, I don't really have any pet peeves really at all.
Yeah, you're a pretty laid back guy, so
yeah, I would like to think so.
Yeah, just kind of go with it. Yeah. But no, I mean that's a big thing. It's you expect professionalism.
Absolutely.
And as you should, in anything at this point, so it's the fact that you don't really have to worry about those things.
Oh, it's great.
In the projects you're in is awesome.
Because that can be so stressful.
Yeah, yeah,
You know?
yeah. It just drops the level a little bit.
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
Excellent. What's like a I mean, you've played thousands of gigs at this point. You know, so it might be tough to pinpoint. But is there any one gig or even a recording session that like sticks out in your mind as, oh man, this time I got to play with this guy and it was the most incredible thing ever. You know, or I recorded this track and it was, you know, just the greatest experience. Like, what's one of your highlight gigs or recording experiences you've ever had?
I would probably say when I was 20.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 20, it was New Year's Eve, and my teacher, Carl Matola,
Mm-hmm.
was like, hey, I got this gig for you. I want you to do it. I want you to go down and do Resorts Casino in Atlantic City, and you're going to play with Chuck Berry and Little Richard.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I was like, wow.
Sure.
I think I'll do that. Yeah, let's go ahead.
Let's get into that.
And the craziest thing about that was that there wasn't MP3s.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't YouTube. It was like there was no rehearsal.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, I need to go down to Tower Records on South Street,
Mm-hmm.
buy every Chuck Berry and Little Richard CD that I can find.
Right.
Even though, like, literally, they're all, like, greatest hits CDs at this point. So it's
Right.
like, oh, but this one has this song on it that this one doesn't.
So I gotta get that one too.
Yeah, and CDs were like $20 a
Right.
piece. So I was like,
Yeah.
all right, well, here we go. You know, so like $300 to $400 in CDs later. You know, basically like paying in CDs what I made. But yeah, so I went down there. I did those gigs. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And the craziest part about the Chuck Berry hit, especially, was that the bass player, like I said, we got a sound check, and that was it. We checked levels, and we ran over one song. And the bass player he said this. He's like, listen, if I lean to the left,
Mm-hmm.
you play through. You just keep playing.
Mm-hmm.
If I lean to the right, that means there's a stop on the downbeat. And that was the whole gig. It's like, and we did, it was on December 30th and 31st. We did a New Year's Eve, and we did a night before that.
Yeah, cool.
My parents even came down to see that, which was really awesome.
Yeah, weird.
But, yeah, that was probably one of the craziest, like, coolest.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was, that's like one of the stories that I tell a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a good highlight for sure.
Yeah, very cool.
That's awesome. Excellent. What do you like to do outside of music? Like, what, you know, you did some sports growing up, but
I did. I was a soccer player, first and foremost.
nice.
I'm an avid video game player.
Outstanding.
Yeah, I love it. That's like my escape.
Yes.
I'm
a fan.
Yeah. I collect classic video games.
Oh, cool.
Massive video game collection.
Neat.
It's
It's funny. I feel like a lot of musicians are gamers.
Oh yeah.
It's funny. You need to talk to Chico Huff too.
We're very good. We're very.
Yeah.
He actually always reaches out to me, and he's like, "Hey man, what do you think of this game?" Like when he bought his PlayStation 5, he actually reached out to me. He's like, "Should I get it? Should I get a 4K TV?" Yes.
Yes. That's awesome.
Yeah, and he and I talk comics all the time,
good. Cool.
But I'm an avid biker.
Oh, good. Cool.
I love biking.
Nice.
That's like my main source of like fitness.
Yeah, good. We'll have to do that sometime too, because
I would love that.
bike a bit. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'd love that. And then other than that, probably the most rewarding thing that I do is just being a dad and a husband.
Yeah, awesome.
You know, my
Yeah, so
wife-
kids, you have
We have 4 kids. They're
yeah.
17, 14, 12, and 10.
Wow.
2 boys, 2 girls,
Awesome.
and they keep me gray.
I can believe it.
Yeah.
Do any of them get into music?
My oldest son, he likes drums.
Cool.
He was in one of like the inner city drum lines for a while.
Oh, neat.
But then he got really involved in other activities, so he kind of had to hang out the sticks. But he still goes down into my studio and plays, and
Yeah.
he loves it. He's not He's not in a drum set at all.
Oh,
He likes like the
interesting.
marching stuff.
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
And he's very good at it.
Nice.
You know, but he's going for his Eagle Scout now, so like that's
a lot.
That's his thing. There's a lot going on with that.
Yeah, that's intense. It's intense.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, anything else you'd like to have people know about you?
I mean,
If you need drum beats, call Josh.
I mean, other than that, I mean, just the gear stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I play Pearl.
Mm-hmm.
I play Sabian. Porter and Davies. Thrones.
Mm-hmm. And those are endorsements.
Those are endorsements. Yep. Even though my favorite snare drum that I have is not made by Pearl. Sorry. It's made by a guy named Greg Savoy, who made me this beautiful 6x13 maple walnut stave drum. It's just, it's otherworldly.
That's
it's like the greatest drum I've ever owned, played. I use it for everything.
Yes. That's awesome.
Yeah, I love it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and other than that, that's me in a nutshell.
Nice. Cool. Well, Josh, we'll wrap it up there, and I appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Super fun. It's always good to chat with you.
Likewise.
And definitely check Josh out. I'm going to link his website in the description, and a bunch of the different things we talked about. There'll be some links down below that you can check out. And as always, please do hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Leave us a comment. Say hey to Josh. I'll relay any comments over to him. If you have any questions about what he's got going on, we'll make sure we get them answered. And I hope you're having a fantastic day, and we'll catch you on the next one.